Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. It is Tuesday, September 27th, and we're happy to have you here for our Westchester Weekly Update, covering some of the issues of things that are happening here in Westchester County. I'll be joined in a few minutes by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins, and we have a number of different issues we want to touch on so that you get an idea of what's happening in Westchester. We are doing this program on Tuesday because Monday is the day of Rosh Hashanah, Jewish New Year. We wish all of our Jewish brothers and sisters a sweet New Year. And in respect to that particular day, we wanted to make sure that we had our update on Tuesday. We're going to be joined in a few minutes by the Deputy Mayor of the Village of Tarrytown. I'll give her a proper introduction at that time. But in every one of these updates, we invite a member of one of our local village, town, or city governments to join us and to talk a little bit about their community. And there are 45 municipalities, an infinite number more of hamlets, each of which have their own personality and their own attributes, which really is what makes Westchester what it is. And we like to spotlight one every week so that you get an idea, if you don't live in the particular community that's being spotlighted, that there's a great place to go. And we're going to be talking about the Village of Terrytown in a few minutes, which is really a terrific community that if you haven't been there, it's just hard to imagine you haven't, that you should go and visit again. We want to mention at the top, probably the most important story that we're very proud of is that we received a new score on our Westchester fiscal stress, and we got the highest possible rating. The New York State Comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, issues annually a stress report that takes into account the level of finances for every village, town, city, and county in New York State, and rates them along a scale based on a host of different factors. And the higher the stress factor, the more in financial difficulty they are, the less likely they are to be able to get a good bond rating and borrow money on the markets necessary for capital expenditures, and the more destabilized they may be. Westchester has gone through some difficult times in the last couple of years. Of course, COVID has impacted everybody in every form of endeavor, and it had its effect on municipal governments. But even before that, when we came into office, we had to deal with what was considered a very negative stress score. And for those of you who track your own credit scores, you have an idea of what that means. If you get a low credit score, it makes it tougher for you to go out if you're going to borrow money and you do it at a higher interest rate. The higher your credit score, the better off it is. Well, for our purposes, we have just received a no designation rate, which is the highest category that's achievable under the state controller's assessment. You couple that with the fact that the county's bond ratings are now standing at a stable level by all three major rating agencies, Fitch, Standard & Poor's, and Moody's. They look at the fiscal stability of a government in this particular case, and they make a judgment as to how reliable we are in being able to have revenues and expenditures match, run a balanced budget, be able to handle the amount of debt that we're taking on. And we were at a point where we were on a negative watch and downgraded just a few years ago, coming after the year that ended in 2017. But this more than 4 full years of work really represent a host of small decisions being made to move us in the right direction. We've had exceptional fiscal management. We have individuals who've worked with us in past years who are still with us. Our budget director, Larry Sewell, notably. We've had strong finance directors, Anne Marie Berg, who served in the administration prior to ours, and then more recently Karen Hablow, who's joined us. And all of the professionals in those two departments have been very critical in making sure that we reach this high score. Our fiscal stress score dropped significantly from 56.7% down to 14.6% in just 1 year. That's a direct result of our exceptional 2021 financial results. And this combination of activities gives us the ability to look at the coming 2023 budget, which we're in the process of discussing and debating internally from the administration standpoint, on a very firm footing, that we're able to do the things that we think are necessary, the capital projects that are necessary to operate on a stable basis, to know that we've got the revenues necessary without having to raise taxes. Now, we don't know where we're going to be yet in the 23 budget. We'll announce information as it's available. We will have a couple of public forums coming up in the month of October where we're going to invite public input before we finalize the budget. This is something we've initiated the last couple of years to get public input, not just on the end product, which happens through the Board of Legislators once we submit it, but also to get input before we start that process or before we finalize that process. And we think that's a very helpful way for citizens to give us input. We will, by mid-October, be releasing the capital project budget to the Board of Legislators for their review, and then in November, the operating budget. And then, of course, all of that will be decided together before the end of December. The Board of Legislators will make adjustments, and we'll have some negotiation. Nothing is ever simple, but we'll go through the normal process, and I have every reason to think that once again we'll have a balanced budget and we'll have an on-time budget. For the last 3 years, we've been able to cut county property tax levy by a certain amount. And I believe it's possible we can do that again this year, but we have to look at those projections, and some of those things will come not from what you wish to be true, but from whatever the hard numbers are. But this sign from the state controller is a very good sign. And I would point out that for those folks who watch these things, you generally draw a perception of what you think a person's policy is going to be. Certainly party affiliation is a factor, and when you look at a resume, you see the governmental or the public sector resume that we'd each have. But Ken Jenkins, who's the deputy county executive, and myself as county executive, both have extensive business experience before and for some degree during our time in public office. I've worked for subsidiaries of Nestle and for ITT. I've had responsibility within those companies for dealing in contractual basis with AT&T, Shearson Lehman, IBM, on a host of different projects. So I come to this position with some very significant understanding in fiscal policy that has nothing to do with whether I served in the state legislature or the county legislature. And Ken Jenkins has the exact same resume involving other major organizations. Arthur Andersen, one of the major accounting firms in its day, Apple Corporation. And those types of things really do help us try to make the most intelligent fiscal decisions. So as we approach the budget season, we're very proud to see that the state controller has watched the way we've managed the funds here in Westchester County, and whatever the perceptions are, political affiliations or what have you, that we've been able to both cut taxes and stabilize our finances as we go forward. That's good news for Westchester residents, and we hope to continue that during the budget cycle. Next, we'll go to our guest who's here from the village of Tarrytown. Terrytown, as most folks know, is one of the villages. It fits within the town of Greenburgh, and it's about 12,000 people, and it's in a strategic location. It's right on the Hudson River, beautiful setting, and it is exactly where the bridge makes landfall from Rockland County. So the New York State Thruway cuts right through Terrytown, making it a mecca for lots of different activities. The first place you reach when you cross the Hudson River, and that gives it riverview facilities for residences, riverview facilities for dining, and of course Tarrytown, along with its neighbor Sleepy Hollow, has a cachet in history that relate to the Washington Irving stories. He has the old cottage in Sunnyside just below Tarrytown in Irvington, and the stories of Ichabod Crane and all these things sort of wrap a historical area around Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow as well. So it's a community that's got a lot of great attributes to it, and we're very happy to have with us here today the deputy mayor for the village of Tarrytown. And Becky Mcgovern has great experience in village government. She served over the last couple of decades, decade and a half plus, as a village trustee. She is deputy mayor to Karen Brown, who is the new mayor, and along with, I think it's a 7-member board altogether, they make the decisions necessary. Their village administrator is Rich Slingerland, and he is a terrific professional who I've worked with in the county government and other locations. So Tarrytown is well served by its leadership. So let me give you the deputy mayor, Becky Mcgovern. Becky, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Let me get tall. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, George. That was quite an introduction about the beautiful community that I come from. I'm here today. I'm Deputy Mayor Becky Mcgovern, and I'm here for Karen Brown, who is our mayor, unable to be here this afternoon. So I just wanted to share with you something about Terrytown. Terrytown is a Hudson River village, and it has a population of close to 12,000 people. And while we like that small town community feel that you get when you stroll on our main street or you come to one of our summer concerts down by the water, we nevertheless also serve as a major transportation hub for the region. We've got the Mario Como Bridge, we've got Interstate 287, we have a very busy commuter station and shuttle buses that take employees to and from some of the largest employers in the county, including Regeneron, just over the border in Greenburgh, and the new Amazon warehouse, which will be completed on Route 9A. So Terrytown offers all the people traveling through our village lots of reasons to stop and stay. From the national acts playing sold-out performances at the historic Terrytown Music Hall, to the great restaurants and foodie destinations lining our downtown, to the historic sites of both Lyndhurst, Washington Irving, Sunnyside, there's so much to see and do and learn. Our Main Street was just voted the best in Westchester this year by Westchester Magazine. We're very proud of that. And it just got even better with the addition of a beautiful mural that was just completed by our local artist, Tim Grayjack. I encourage you to go visit it. It's on Caldenberg Place in Terrytown. We are a village that is rooted in the past, and we value and celebrate our history. Our village logo features our critical role during the Revolutionary War when our local militia captured British spy major John Andre. So sure some of you know about that. And next month we're hosting a first-time event, Revolution on the Hudson, which is being produced by Revolutionary Westchester 250, a family-friendly event featuring reenactments of historic milestones, famous figures like George Washington, Benedict Arnold, and demonstrations of blacksmithing and Lenape Indian technologies. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and we encourage everybody to come down to the Pearson Park by the river on October 22nd from noon to 5. Coming up also is our annual Halloween parade, which is going to return on October 29th for its 20th year. And after a pandemic hiatus, it promises to be the best one yet. There's still time to sign up to be one of our floats or to come out in costume for our contests. Maybe you might even win a prize, and then afterwards you stay and you join the party that will be on our streets. All the details can be found at TerrytownHalloweenParade.com. Terrytown is a village that celebrates its history, but it also looks ahead to the future. This year we were selected to host Cornell University's Climate Adaptive Design Studio, which in partnership with the DEC looks at ways to integrate climate resiliency into future planning for our beautiful waterfront. We want to be able to enjoy the Riverwalk and our recreation areas along the water for the many years to come. We need to be smart now and plan ahead. Terrytown benefits from committed and engaged community members who volunteer their time to make this community even better than it already is. The Terrytown Environmental Advisory Council, or what we call TEAC, is one of the more active groups, and they will be hosting an eco-fair at our Terrytown Sleepy Hollow Farmers Market on October 1st. Now, the village also values the close partnership we have with our businesses in our community. The Sleepy Hollow Terrytown Chamber of Commerce works with us on our winter stroll and our tree lighting in early December, which features a great holiday market where you can get all the holiday treats you need as well as other gifts. It's a great day. Come on out. So don't delay, pay us a visit. Thank you for the time to highlight what a wonderful place Terrytown is to work, play, and live. Thanks. Thank you, George.
Thank you very much. That's Becky Mcgovern, who is the deputy mayor for the village of Tarrytown. We thank you very much for being with us. And Becky and the rest of the group under the direction of Karen Brown have really done a terrific job. I saw some of her colleagues this weekend when Tarrytown had their fire department inspection at Pearson Park. And one of her colleagues, Tom Mitchell, was a young man who grew up in the same neighborhood that I did. His older brother was a contemporary of mine, so we knew him as Tommy in those days. Now he's Thomas Mitchell. So it's great, great diverse group. I do want to invite County Legislator Jewel Williams-Johnson to join us here at the podium for a second. Jewel represents Tarrytown as well as Elmsford and Sleepy Hollow, part of Sleepy Hollow. And so, Jewel, as a county legislator, you know the area better than I do. Please come up and share a few thoughts before we go on with the rest of our program. County Legislator Jewel Williams-Johnson.
Thank you so much, George. I, too, want to wish everyone celebrating this week happy high holidays. It was so great to hear Becky talk about all the wonderful things about Tarrytown, and the village does have such a very rich history. And I always enjoy going to all the events, especially in Patriots Park, who, if you don't know, was part of the land was donated by slaves to be parkland. So I'm always reminded of that, and it's really great to work with wonderful people like Becky and Mayor Karen Brown and all the trustees on the village board. I, too, encourage you and echo everything that Becky said. Come on out to all the events. You're guaranteed a wonderful time. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jewel. And Patriots Park, and Becky noted that there's an eco fair that's going to occur this Saturday, October 1st. It's at the concurrent with the farmers market that's done by Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow jointly. And if you're at Patriots Park, you'll see that there's a little river that goes through it and stone bridges over it. That is literally the dividing line between Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow villages. They work very closely together, even though they're in separate towns. Sleepy Hollow's in the town of Mount Pleasant, Terrytown's in the town of Greenberg. Go figure. This is how it all was created once upon a time. Let me also highlight, just to complete the final report on this, that the parade that happens for Halloween is really a signature parade in the county. You have probably the signature Thanksgiving parade is held in New Rochelle every year. And they have big balloons like you might see on television, Mighty Mouse and big turkeys going down North Avenue in New Rochelle. On St. Patrick's Day, many communities have a great St. Patrick's parade. It's hard to get past the one on McLean Avenue in Yonkers, which is a concentration of the Irish American community here in Yonkers, and people are lined 5 and 6 deep on the sidewalks. But the Halloween parade of note in this county is the Tarrytown Sleepy Hollow Parade. So we encourage you to come, and after a couple of years of COVID absence, it'll, as Becky said, be even more exciting. So it's a great place. Bring your kids. It's very entertaining. Wear your mask like I'm wearing right now, and you'll have a great time at the parade. So thank you very much for all things Tarrytown. Next, I'm going to ask Ken Jenkins to join us here to talk a little bit about an initiative that is happening through our Office for Women involving domestic violence and the high-risk team that's in place. Ken Jenkins, Deputy County Executive.
Thanks, George. We are really pleased to announce for the Office of Women introducing a project director for domestic violence, the high-risk team for domestic violence. So we're expanding our county's mission to reduce domestic violence cases across Westchester County. The Office for Women has received a federal grant for the Westchester County Domestic Violence High-Risk Team. Dave Ryan, former chief of Pound Ridge for the past 23 years and a member of law enforcement for over 40 years, will serve in that new post through a contract with Hope's Door, a Westchester-based domestic violence services provider funded by the U.S. Department of Justice Office on Violence Against Women, VAWA. Ryan will be responsible for reviewing domestic violence cases from a law enforcement perspective, following the county executive's commitment to improving community and police responses for family violence. The team will connect victims to the appropriate service providers. Chief Ryan, along with DVHRT Coordinator Nancy Tunis of the Office for Women, will oversee the continued DVHRT training for the county's local police departments, with the 5 remaining police departments scheduled for training this fall. So out of the county's 42 police departments, there's going to be only 1 that remains to be trained. And during the month of September, Mount Vernon, Larchmont, and Harrison are scheduled for their training sessions. Chief Ryan has been an awesome person to work with. We had the ability to work with him, Hope's Door, and our friends over at the department in Office for Women, when we established with Pete Harcum, then County Legislator Pete Harcum, and now Senator Pete Harcum, worked on a trafficking scenario to work with Allison Boak, to be able to fund a program that worked with Chief Ryan in Pound Ridge to be able to address those particular concerns. So Westchester County continues this leadership under County Executive George Latimer's direction for us to continue to make sure that we are doing everything possible to reduce domestic violence and to address those things that happen when we have people being trafficked around the county. Thanks a lot, George.
Thanks very much, Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive. I just want to highlight as well that this initiative with the special training for our police departments around the county, these are the local police departments, and the county does not direct all the police in Westchester County, but this is the county police function serving a regional function in cooperation with the local police departments to make sure the specialty training is available to them. And I think this is exactly, what we've tried to talk about for the last 2 years. And there's been much of a spotlight since the death of George Floyd around the operation of police departments. So we've taken the attitude that we fully fund the police. We support the initiatives of our police department in terms of doing their job every day to help keep us safe. But at the same time, what we learned from these experiences is that additional training and additional programming is to the benefit of the way they can conduct their police work as professionals. So we've done things such as having a mental health crisis response team in place. We have an app that's on your on your iPhone or your Android phone that will help you contact the police quicker. And within these areas, this community policing effort, this is another major initiative. So we're hopeful that we'll see the fruits of it in the way police, not just in the county police force, but in all the police forces around the county in a cooperative way. And we think that's one of the reasons why crime is down in Westchester County, because we do have this kind of positive cooperative effort to the greatest extent possible. I do want to highlight some other issues on the table. The next one, and you're going to see a slide come up, which will give you some information. We've been working with our Hispanic Advisory Board to identify charities that would help those that have been impacted in the Caribbean by Hurricane Fiona. Hurricane Fiona wreaked havoc over the last couple of weeks across Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Turks and Caicos, and other parts of the Caribbean. Puerto Rico was especially hit hard, and given the fact that that island is still recovering from the damage from 5 years ago from Hurricane Maria, much of the infrastructure was hurt under Maria. It destroyed the island's power grid, and it's still have been in the process of being fully rebuilt. And during that rebuilding process, along comes Hurricane Fiona to continue to do some difficult work in reestablishing things. You saw that the mayor of New York City, Mayor Adams, and some chief officials went down to Puerto Rico, that Governor Hochul allocated some law enforcement personnel to help security on the island. And we also have, working with our Hispanic Advisory Board, identified some of the organizations locally that are available for you to connect to provide generous help to the people who are still suffering in the aftermath of the hurricanes. You'll see listed before us a Rock of Salvation Church, Sleepy Hollow. There's a phone number there. The Reverend Christian Santiago is the contact person there. The Hispanic Federation, phone number given, 844 number, and you see a website that gives you information on how you can click on and help those individuals in that area. Organization Global Giving, with their website information as well, and the Dominican Cultural Association of Yonkers, along with the Westchester Hispanic Law Enforcement Association, is looking to collect certain items. They're looking for blankets, batteries, water, diapers, canned goods. Give them a call, 914-843-4566, if you can be helpful to them. Any of these organizations are at the ready to accept your charity, whether it's in the form of financial resources or other kinds of efforts, manpower resources, if that's appropriate, and we'll continue to try to provide that information so that we can help our brothers and sisters in need. We know there's another hurricane coming through, Hurricane Ian, and we learned a lesson from Hurricane Ida of last year, last September 1st. When Hurricane Ida made landfall in New Orleans, we felt that we were a long way away from New Orleans and we were less likely to see any impact of it, and we did. As it came through our area and it stalled and moved very slowly, it dumped tremendous amounts of rain, causing tremendous flooding here in Westchester County, even though that was a few days after landfall. So we see that Hurricane Ian is bearing down on the Gulf Coast of Florida and has a path that might take us close to New York, perhaps directly here. We don't know yet, but what we do know is that every one of these hurricanes in hurricane season can have a devastating impact. And one hurricane may devastate the Caribbean islands, the next one may be the Gulf of Mexico, and it could even come right into our own doorstep. So certainly be aware, follow the tracking information in the various weather reports, and if you can be helpful in the case of Hurricane Fiona assistance, then by all means we encourage that for everyone in the Westchester community, and we continue to extend our prayers to our brothers and sisters in Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Turks and Caicos, and any of the other affected islands. We want to touch upon the public health issues that we talk about a lot. It began with COVID 2.5 years ago, and then more recently there's been dialogue about monkeypox and then a little bit about polio. So I want to give you an update on these things. And the first bit of news is good news. We believe that the concerns that have been expressed over the monkeypox outbreak have been satisfied to the best possible level, and we do not see it now as a separate disease that has to be tracked uniquely. We know that we've been able to vaccinate a significant number of Westchester residents, in fact, to the point where we were helping out in vaccination of people coming up from New York City that were in vulnerable communities. And right now, the incidence of monkeypox is low as to be negligible in Westchester County. We had no fatalities, no significant hospitalization because of monkeypox. It is a serious disease, but it has not turned out in this area to be a fatal disease. We worked very closely with the Loft, and we've had regular vaccinations. And if you want a vaccination for monkeypox, they're still available through the county health department. You can go through our website and get the information. Give us a call. Make an appointment. If you feel you need that vaccination, we can still provide it. But we think we're through, certainly whatever the worst of it was, we're through the worst of it. And the people that have contracted are recuperating. And so we won't be referencing this uniquely unless something else happens, some kind of spike that's unexpected. We also have good news on the polio front. There's quite a fear that polio is resurfacing in a profound way. One case now 3 months ago in Rockland County, an individual who contracted polio, was not vaccinated against polio, traveled overseas and picked up the disease. But we have seen no incidents of it here in Westchester County. And in fact, I mentioned last week that we're going through wastewater testing at our various wastewater treatment plants to see if there's any trace of polio in the wastewater flow that we generate from our various homes. There were traces in Rockland County wastewater, in Orange County wastewater, and some out of New York City. But the reports that came back showed no trace of polio in Westchester County wastewater. So we believe that means that we are not facing a crisis in polio. We encourage people to be vaccinated. It's a once-in-a-lifetime vaccination. I had mine 6 decades ago. And for many of us who were vaccinated, we were children, we are protected to this day against polio. But there are circumstances where some people are unvaccinated. You might have grown up someplace else. You live in this area now. Vaccination wasn't part of your normal routine. But we encourage you to be vaccinated for polio if you aren't. If you are unvaccinated and there is some type of an outbreak, then you've created a vulnerability. And while it may seem like a small percentage, 1 out of 200, those that contract full-blown polio potentially suffer permanent paralysis. We all know the story of President Franklin Roosevelt, who contracted polio back in his day and lived the balance of his life unable to walk again. So we want to avoid that as a public health matter, but we want to be clear, monkeypox, polio, not active concerns that we have. We monitor them, but we monitor every disease. We monitor measles, we monitor hepatitis C, every other disease on the planet. We have a very capable public health department that does its due diligence. We do not see a crisis in either of those two. As relates to COVID, we think we're managing what continues to be a certain level of infection of the disease. We're running slightly above 2,000 active cases as we speak today. That number has oscillated, but basically static over the last 3 months. And we've seen it go up a little bit above 2,000, but below 2,000, but nothing to represent a significant trend. And when you're at about that number, the next question you ask yourself, you're not at a point in which you have a large number of active cases. We had 36,000 active cases in the height of the Omicron variant reality in late December, early January. I was one of the many that got, I think Ken got it in the same time frame. But right now, 2,000 active cases, that is a fairly low number in a county of 1 million people. We have had over 300,000 cases, pandemic to date, less than 1% fatality. That number has dropped as the people who get infected have generally recuperated very well from the disease. We do have vulnerability in people of advanced age. We have vulnerability amongst people who have underlying health issues for which their system is weakened and then more subject to the worst effects of COVID, and for those that are unvaccinated. And if you're unvaccinated against COVID, you are as vulnerable to COVID today as the first patients were vulnerable before there was a vaccine 1 week after we discovered that the disease was prevalent in our community. So we obviously encourage people to get vaccinated. You're somewhere between 3 and 4 shots right now is the standard protocol. There's a new bivalent vaccine that's out, which is supposed to be a stronger vaccine. If you have had a 3rd shot, but you haven't had a 4th shot, check your medical professional to determine if that is right for you. And the vaccination levels of our county, over 85%, has really given us a rather solid response at this stage of the game. And I say that knowing that during the summer, we invited people to come on the bus system for free. We had people at our pools and beaches, and we had big numbers, bigger numbers this year than last year. We had large numbers of people coming to our ethnic festivals, which were reestablished. Just like the parade in Sleepy Hollow, Tarrytown, we reestablished things that were closed for 2 years, and no incidents of outbreak of COVID at any of those activities or events. So I attribute that to the high level of vaccination and then sort of the natural common sense behavior that takes over. If you know that you are of a certain age or a certain level of health, and you wear a mask to reduce the likelihood that you will get the disease. It doesn't eliminate it, but it reduces the likelihood of it. So I think we're at a point now with COVID where we're hopeful that we're at a level where it can be managed. I say that not knowing what variant is coming around the corner. If a new variant manifests itself, more severe variant, we'll certainly deal with it, and then we'll move to a different level of response. But I think we've centered so much of our lives around COVID, and we had to at the outset, and it affected the economy without question. But I think now what we're seeing is the diligence of our efforts to vaccinate and to be prudent has delivered a positive benefit where we're managing COVID. Monkeypox and polio are not on our radar screen as being major health concerns. And that's also why in a report like this, which began as a daily COVID update, has now become a weekly update that doesn't focus on COVID as a prime action, but it does cover on all of those things. Do check our Westchester County Department website. They will give you the information about where you can get vaccinations on any of these diseases, and that will certainly help you in all of the things that we have to do. I want to thank all of our friends who were active in the opening of Memorial Field. We had a we had a ribbon cutting a week ago. It'll be tomorrow. And then, of course, on Saturday, we had the first game on that field in 12 years. Mount Vernon Knights beat the Yonkers Force. Very closely competitive game. So I think the people that were there enjoyed it, and Ken, myself, and many others were there. We thank the people who works in the county government, our operations team, our Department of Public Works, our Department of Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, our public safety department, all of whom did yeoman work to make sure that that first game went off well. It was a madhouse, but it was a happy madhouse. And it's what you want to see when you see high school sports, that kids are competing and playing and enjoying themselves. They're learning from that process. And it gives the community a sense of pride. And having Memorial Field back in business gives us all that sense of pride. So we're very happy about that happening in the course of this past week. I just also want to mention, on an updated note, we've been blessed for the last year and 3/4 of the work that Lisa Reyes has done for us as one of our key communication executives. She's going to be leaving us this week, and she's going to be joining the team in the City of Yonkers communications team. And so while we're all going to see each other, we're still in the same ballpark. She'll be working for Mayor Mike Spano down in Yonkers. We wish her well. She's done a terrific job here in the county. We're all accustomed to having seen her on News 12 for such a long period of time, so we'll continue to see her in different contexts. But we've had Lisa and other members of our team that have been with us have contributed greatly, move on to another opportunity. We're very happy for them as they move on and move up, and we're also grateful for their accomplishments here in Westchester County. So Lisa, thank you and congratulations. Good luck in what you're doing. We'll see you around as part of all of this process. So with that, I don't know if we have any press questions. We generally lately have not, but members of the press are welcome to call us at 995-2932. You'll get Catherine Chaffee, our Director of Communications. She'll be happy to talk with you about any issues under the sun. And we will be back next Monday. Make sure I get it right here. You know, we make mistakes. If you saw the little mistake in the front end, we make these mistakes, but we try to do this every Monday at 2 o'clock, so we'll be back next Monday, and we look forward to giving you our first report for the month of October as we go through the rest of the year. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thanks for participating, and have a very good and safe week, and we'll see you around.